Hello scrapbookers, this is Megan and I am back today on the Crafty Maven Getaway with a Sketch It Out Thursday layout. So for this layout I had picked a sketch that had 3 photos, and also it was a very minimal sketch, which I was kind of happy about because I just wanted to get this layout done, get these photos scrapped, and I didn't want to have to put a whole lot of thought into embellishments or anything. And sometimes I just get in moods like that where I don't want to embellish a whole lot, which actually is a lot of my scrapbooking. I'm not a huge embellisher. So for this layout, I'm using this Tim and Beck paper, which is called Emerald City. And then I'm also going to use this poolside paper, which I think is called Sunshine, maybe. And what I'm doing with this yellow paper is I'm just cutting it into 3 different sizes of strips, and the sketch called for banner strips behind the photos, but the idea that I thought would be really cool is to just layer these 4 strips on top of each other. So I'm going to ink the edges on all 4 of them with this Close to My Heart ink, and it is in Sapphire. This is one of my favorite colors. It's kind of like a navy blue color. So I'm just inking all of these edges, and then I'm going to start gluing them down, and I'm going to offset them a little bit from each other. I don't want them to all be the same height, and I don't want them to be, you know, perfectly straight. So I'm just gluing them down using my ATG gun. And then I was thinking it would be okay to have them kind of hanging off of the paper, but then I decided, no, I'm going to cut it in half and I'll just attach it in the middle with a washi tape piece of paper, or a piece of washi tape, because you're not going to be able to see it, and so it didn't really bother me to have the washi tape there. So this is where I'm trying to decide how much of the photos I want to have on the background, and then there I'm showing you that I decided to go and stitch along the top. I stitched 3 lines. One line is a straight line, and then a couple lines are zigzags, and I just kind of did it all crazy and wonky. Here I am inking the edge of this background paper, which I had forgot to do before I had glued it down, so I wanted to make sure to go ahead and do that. And then I'm just adding a few little places of ink on the background there, just to add a little bit more color and interest to the page. And then here I'm going to decide to cut down the photos just a teensy tiny little bit, and then I'm going to glue everything down. So here's where I'm trying to figure out where exactly I want my first photo to go, and then I'm going to glue down this paper in the background, and I really love how that turned out. That paper was really fun, and I actually didn't get a whole lot of the crepe paper poolside, so it was fun that I got this paper. This came in my Studio Calico box. I bought one of those grab bags, I don't even remember, like a month or 2 ago from Studio Calico, and I was kind of nervous when I got mine because I'd seen all the posts on Facebook saying, oh, it isn't worth it, I'm so upset, but mine was actually not too bad. Mine was pretty good. Sorry about my dog. Of course, he decides to bark when I'm doing my process video. Okay, so here I am trying to figure out what I want to do for my title. The title that I'm going to use is Sweet and Silly Moments, and I really liked this We Are Memory Keepers alphabet that was a little bit bigger, but I didn't have an S, and I didn't have an S at all, but I did have a 6. So I was thinking I could cut the 6 down and have part of the title be in this alpha, and then the rest of the title be in this Chamel little circular alpha. But I'm going to totally change my mind because I just don't like the way the 2 look together. But I'm just going to spend some time putting these down, and the Chamel Alpha, the circular one, had both capital and lowercase letters, and I didn't have enough capital letters and enough lowercase letters, so I kind of switch them between the two. So I start with the capital and then do lowercase and then capital and lowercase, and it works out okay. It's not my favorite title, but I'm okay with it. Okay, so this is where I decide to put that other alpha away, and I'm just going to go with the Chamel circular alpha. And I believe these are from her first collection, from, what year was that? Oh my goodness, 2014, right? I think that was 2014. Maybe it was 2015. Goodness, I don't even remember. Okay, sorry, back to the layout. So now I'm trying to figure out exactly where I want the title to go. So I'm going to start putting these down. I like it down there on the bottom better than up at the top. And I did decide to keep that ampersand from the We Are Memory Keepers stickers. And now I'm just going to incorporate it into the title. I really wanted to have it over there on that left-hand side, but it just wasn't working with the two words, because I wanted the sweet to be on top of the ampersand, but then that kind of created a little awkward space in between sweet and silly. So I decided to move the ampersand over to the right-hand side of the title, and that works out pretty well. So here I'm just placing down the title, and then I'm going to, let's see, what am I going to do? I think I'm going to do my journaling next. So on the sketch, it calls for journaling down the whole right side of the layout right next to the photos, but I didn't have that much to say about these photos. And in all honesty, I am not a huge journaler in the first place. So here I am. I went to go look for a scratch piece of paper so that I could write down my journaling first. So here I pulled out my phone because I did blog about these photos way back in 2008 when they were taken. And so I wanted to make sure that I wrote down the journaling from that day that I had actually journaled about. So it wasn't just some generic me saying how fun it was to sit in the tub with my boys or something silly like that. So here I'm just writing it on a scratch piece of paper just so that I can know where I want to put the lines, so I know how long the journaling is going to be. So I'm just writing it out on this scrap piece of paper, and then I'm going to make my own lines and put them on the background. So here I'm going to cut up that paper and just measure exactly how tall it needs to be. So here I'm counting how many lines I used, and there was 10 lines. So now I'm just drawing 10 lines, and it works out perfect. I'm really glad that I did it that way. So the journaling just says, I was getting the laundry out of the dryer when Brennan decided to get in the tub, and he wanted me to join him. Jonas came in with us as well, and we had a fun and silly photo shoot. I was talking to a friend at the time I was doing the journaling, and so I kept getting lost in my journaling. So it took a little bit longer than it really should have. So that's why you see me pausing, because I was listening to my friend talk and writing at the same time, and that doesn't always work out the best. So, yeah. After I do the journaling, I am going to pull out a bunch of flare badges and sequins. On the sketch, it calls for embellishing on the right-hand side next to all the journaling and everything. So I'm going to keep true to that. I didn't really want that much white space up there in the top right-hand corner where there's supposed to be journaling, but there isn't. So what I'm going to do, oh, I forgot that I did this. So I pulled out this heart that said happy, And I was like, oh, I could just stick this heart and it could just look like half of a heart. But then I was like, that looks kind of funky. So I decided that I'm not going to put it there. I'm going to fiddle with it for a while because I really liked having it there. I just didn't like that it was such, like, not so much of the heart was showing. But the heart I had stamped Happy Valentine's Day on, so I couldn't really use the whole thing of it. So here I decided to cut it up into a banner and leave the word happy on it. And then here I'm going to pull out all of these flare badges, which I've gotten in kits and from scrappy friends and things. So yeah, I'm trying to stick with the same colors. So I don't know if you will have noticed, but I didn't really stick with the colors of the inspiration piece. I had actually forgotten. I was just so excited about scrapbooking on this day that I forgot to look at the inspiration piece. But it so happens to turn out that one of the pieces on the inspiration piece is of a little kid in a raincoat and standing out in the rain with ducks. And so I was like, hey, that even works perfectly with these photos though, even though I wasn't trying to make it work. But we're sitting in the bathtub and there's ducks on the kids' little shower curtain. So I just thought that was funny and kind of a silly and good coincidence, right? Okay, so here I have picked out 4 different flare badges. I'm still kind of rotating them and trying to figure out which ones I really like to put on the layout. I had a pink one that I really liked, but I just didn't like that it was pink because there wasn't really any other pink on the layout. So I decided to put that one away, and I'm sticking with black and yellow and kind of like a gray and beige color as these 4 flare badges that I stick with. Then I'm pulling out some of these Studio Calico sequins. They are gray, red, and yellow. At first I was kind of thinking I didn't want to do the red, but I end up doing it anyway, and I actually kind of like it because it gives a little a little bit of a pop to the layout. So here I'm just going to mess around with placing the sequins down on the layout, and then I'm going to use my Zotz glue to put them down on the layout, and I'm also going to use Zotz to put down the flare buttons, but these were really flat flare buttons, and like the backing was indented into the button part. I don't know if that makes sense. So in order for me to glue down the flare buttons, I have to stack 2 of these glue Zotz on top of each other. And I actually, for the flare badges, I use a bigger circle. I think I use the medium size. I don't quite remember what size it is. And I don't keep my boxes, so I don't really remember. Okay, so here you can see I'm going to glue down the flare badges. Sometimes I can use the Zotz really well, but sometimes I have to fight with getting the glue off of there, and it's kind of frustrating. I am also going to put the date on a rotary date stamp right above the journaling and next to that yellow flare badge, and I think I do that off camera, so you will see that in the photos. But this is pretty much the end of my layout. Thanks so much for watching and for stopping by the Crafty Maven Getaway today. Come on over to the Facebook group and show us what you are up to and what inspired you this week. We would love to see it. Thanks for stopping by. We'll talk to you guys next month. Bye.